Let's go across to currencies as well now, where the Indian rupee has climbed more than 1%, is trading at a one-week highs right now. That's because of the strong equity markets in India today. The reforms agenda is back on track, as at least the sentiment is coming back as well. And of course, a bit of a recovery in euro also helped the Indian rupee. Let's also go across then to Mr. A.V. Rajwade. He's Forex and Treasury Risk Management Consultant, A.V. Rajwade and Company, and he joins us in Mumbai. Mr. Rajwade, hi, welcome to the show. How have you seen the rupee movement really? Because last week wasn't so good, and this week we've seen, especially today, the kind of jump up that the rupee has seen. What would you give it to?
Well, I'm not sort of placing too much importance in what has happened today. And yes, the rupee had jumped. In fact, what has surprised me is also the bullishness in the stock market, and the FIIs keep coming in. I think the domestic investor, we see a very sharp contrast today between FII monies keeping sort of coming inside, but the domestic investor does not seem very interested. If you look at what has happened to the domestic mutual funds and the funds they have under management and so on and so forth. In fact, I am wondering whether a lot of the FII money isn't coming on an arbitrage basis into the debt market, where they are covering the exchange risk in the NDF market, the non-deliverable forward market outside India. And since there is a gap between that forward margin and the coupons in India, or even right from T-bills to longer maturities, maybe that is the kind of flow that is coming in. So I'm not too sure how much importance to give to what has happened today. Number two, we should be having the GNP figures tomorrow, if their past record is to go by. Now, OECD has talked of 4.2. IMF had talked of 4.9, both for calendar 2012, not for the quarter for which the figures will come tomorrow. But I think the figures tomorrow are very crucial in terms of what happens to capital flows. The other side, of course, is that the central bank seems to be going all out to get as much foreign capital in as possible. In fact, I sometimes wonder whether they are getting desperate to attract foreign money. The kind of sectors they are opening for external commercial borrowings, I think makes one worried as to what is really driving the central bank policies in terms of ECBs, but the general problems in terms of what the policy wants and its implementation, I think the problems continue. I was amused that day that when the Indian Prime Minister requested the Chinese Prime Minister to bridge the trade gap by bringing Chinese investments, on the same day, questions were raised about allowing Huawei and ZTE, two major Chinese investments in India, to continue. So I think the dichotomy continues between policy announcements and what's happening on the ground. The Cadbury tax case is another example. So I think there are still major question marks.
Sure.
My own feeling is that the balance of payments still remains very vulnerable to capital flows, and I would expect downward pressure on the rupee to resume.
That point is well taken, Mr. Rajwade. So what is your expectation then? Because we've broken 53, 54, 55 quite easily in last few sessions there. What kind of a decline further are you expecting in the rupee, percentage terms, if not a level that you would want to give?
I think it's very difficult to sort of put a number on it because, and in fact, frankly speaking, I rarely do that, because market reaction and fundamentals, the correlation has not been strong in any case. So whatever, I could give any number of examples in support of that argument, but I would not like to put a level, but I would probably buy dollars at the current level. I think the downward pressure on the rupee more likely to persist as we come towards the December, and then of course we have the BOP data coming toward the end of December.
Sure, Mr. Ajwade, we'll let you go at that. So today, of course, was just a blip, and as Mr. Ajwade is saying, you might be looking at further vulnerable positions coming in for the Indian rupee. Most of the data has been on the weaker side. Vijay, what's your sense, especially on charts, the kind of volatile moves that you have seen for the rupee? What's the last day looking like?
Manisha, the 56 level, actually 55.70 to be precise, is a very critical level for the USD INR. The USD has to stay above 55.70 odd levels for it to remain bullish and then carry on from there on the upward direction. I would agree with Mr. Ajwade that fundamentally nothing has changed, but what is being done is a slew of announcements. First of all, you are now hearing reports about how the food security bill will not actually be implemented to the extent that food will be given in the hands of the BPL guys, but there would be a direct money transfer. Now that is basically good for the rupee in terms of strength vis-a-vis the US dollar. And there are also reports about the cash transfer being actually deficit neutral. So all these factors are being factored in by the currency markets. But I, over a longer period, medium to long period of time, remain of the view that the buy USD, sell INR trade remains in place. Although in the absolute short term, the dollar bulls might just face a little bit of heat. I would watch 54.20 in the cash, failing which 53.60 would be a much more meaningful support.